Hey friends, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, back again with another video, and today I am super duper excited to be sharing with you my brand new bullet journal setup for the second half of 2021. Today's video is kindly sponsored by Skillshare. I'll talk about them more at the end of the video, but for now, I want to get started on this setup, and as I pull out this notebook that I'm using as my next bullet journal for the last 6 months of 2021, you may notice that this notebook is not a notebook that currently exists in the Archer and Olive notebook lineup. This is the first of a couple notebooks that I collaborated on with Archer and Olive that are launching at the end of June. I am over the moon, so excited to share everything with all of you. So I will be sharing sneak peeks on my YouTube community tab and on my Instagram. Instagram's probably the easiest way to stay in the know about my upcoming collab, so follow me there if you aren't already. And of course, on launch day, I'll be sharing it everywhere, and I'll probably also be an emotional mess because it's me we're talking about. So anyway, I'm very excited about this, but I have many spreads to make in this video, so I'm going to stop talking about this before I give anything away that I shouldn't. So let's focus on the spreads that I'm creating for my second bullet journal for 2021. So you may notice as I get started here that this setup is very reminiscent of my setup for the start of 2021 in my last bullet journal. This is an intentional choice. As I was thinking about the style I wanted to go for this setup and the feel I wanted it to have, I realized that I wanted my 2 bullet journals for 2021 to really fit together nicely, to be, I guess, kind of like fraternal twins, not identical, but definitely related. So that was kind of my plan going into this. I wanted them to go together and have some similar qualities. If you watched that last video, you'll recognize many of the spreads that I'm creating. They're spreads that I used a lot in my last bullet journal and I want to use moving forward in my next bullet journal for the end of 2021. And you'll also notice that I'm using the same fonts again, and that's because I felt like that was the easiest way to make them feel like a set, and also just generally because I really liked the fonts that I used in my last setup and I wanted to use them again. The first spread I'm creating here, I'm gluing down this piece of white construction paper that I've folded in half. This is going to create a little fold out page in the inner cover. And this is the same setup that I did in my last bullet journal. I wanted to have the fold out grid spacing sheet so that no matter where I am in the bullet journal, I can fold this page out and see the grid spacing information and use that for a reference while I'm creating any spread through the whole bullet journal. Instead of having to flip back and forth between the spreads, I can just fold it out and leave it out while I'm working. My last bullet journal was named Evie, which was a name that y'all voted for, and I decided it would be fun to go with another E name, not only so that they feel like a set, but also because my name starts with an E, so I have an affinity for E names. And when I was doing my research, I found this name, Era, and this is actually a name of Scottish origin, and I have Scottish ancestors, and the name means from the east, which felt relevant since this is a sunset notebook. It has the sun setting on the front, and obviously the sun comes from the east, so it felt not only relevant for this particular notebook, but it also fit all of my other criteria. So that's the name I picked for this bullet journal. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, if you like this name. If you're Scottish, let me know if I pronounced it right, and if I didn't, please correct me, but please be kind. I'm starting to add the artistic element here so you can kind of see what I'm going for. I decided to use 2 tubes of Winsor Newton gouache for this whole setup. One is burnt sienna, and the other is zinc white. So this burnt sienna on its own is a really nice, dark, rusty red, and when it's mixed with different amounts of the zinc white, you can get anywhere from a really light peach through nice terracottas and oranges into a nice deep rust. So that was my goal here, was to create a bunch of loose circle shapes in different sizes in a very abstract way, sort of overlapping, using this single color with different amounts of white mixed in. I also decided to incorporate some gold watercolor because y'all know I love gold. I love my gold watercolors. I have taken a bit of a step away from them to try some different things, but gold watercolor will always live in my heart. And I felt that the gold tied in really nicely with these different shades of peach and orange and rust. And obviously the notebook itself has gold accents, so it just really felt like it tied in nicely. For the lettering, I'm using my black acrylograph from Archer & Olive in the finer nib, which is the 0.7mm nib. And I'm also using my Sakura microns for some of the finer detailed writing work. I'll link all of the supplies I'm using in the description box down below, as I always do. So if you're looking for something in particular, check it out down there and you can shop all of the supplies. I'll also link my collab down there once it has launched. So if you're watching this in the future, you can also shop this notebook, as long as it's still in stock. For the style here, I'm just keeping it really abstract. I'm adding that base of the layers of painted circles in different sizes. And then once those are fully dry, I'm adding wiggly black lines and little black dots. What I love about picking a more abstract theme for a new bullet journal setup, there are so many different ways to play on a single simple idea and get infinite possibilities. So the different ways that you combine different sizes and shades of circles, the different types of wobbly, wavy black lines, the different combinations of black dots in different sizes and positions can make each spread look entirely unique while still tying them together so perfectly, because at their core, they are the same pieces every single time, just arranged in different combinations. So if you're ever struggling to come up with an overarching theme, if you want to have a theme for a new bullet journal setup, but you feel a bit overwhelmed by doing something a little more realistic or a little more involved, I would highly recommend doing something more abstract with more of a controlled or limited color palette, because it makes it really hard to mess it up, to be honest, because anything you do is going to work together. It's pretty foolproof, and honestly, that's really awesome when you have many spreads to create. Once I finished my fold-out grid spacing sheet and my key, I'm flipping over to the next page, which is going to be a cover page and a quote page. So if you watched my last bullet journal setup, you will probably recognize that this cover page is sort of pulling inspiration from that last cover page, but doing it in a new way. Again, tying into my whole idea of making these two bullet journals feel like they're part of a set. I thought it would be cool for the cover page to have a bunch of these circles in different sizes behind the lettering. So I sketched out the lettering first and then arranged my circles on top of that penciled in sketch. And once all the circles were dry, I went back over it with my acrylograph. And this is a circumstance where the fact that pencil can show through gouache or watercolor if it's not a very dark color is a benefit instead of a drawback, because once your paint is dry, you can still see your pencil marks that you sketched ahead of time through the paint, which really helps with getting nice, clean, evenly spaced letters. On the opposite page where I'm doing my quote, I wanted the circles to be split in half in opposite corners to kind of contrast them all being gathered in the center on the cover page. And this time around, I decided to use the quote, "Stay patient and trust your journey." For the quote this time, I was trying to find something about a fresh start or a journey. Since my family is about to move across the country, we're going to have a really big fresh start. I came across this one and I liked it because I definitely feel like ever since we made the decision, we've sort of been rushing towards the move, and it feels like there's so much to do and not enough time, and we're just kind of running around on level 10 all the time and stressing about if everything is going to work out, if everything is going to go smoothly. And I'm a very anxious person by nature, so that's kind of amplifying this feeling of urgency. And when I saw this quote, I just felt it was so perfect for this time in my life. Just a reminder to stay patient and trust that the journey is going to work out. Trust that I don't have to be on 10 all the time to ensure that we're going to have a good outcome, because I'm also not doing it alone. I have my husband, I have a larger support system, and I know it's going to work out. So I liked this quote for that. It just felt very relevant and very reassuring. Next, I'm flipping to the next spread and creating a future log. I'm the kind of person that has to plan far in advance to feel comfortable, so my future log is absolutely essential to me in any bullet journal I set up, and this one is relatively simple. So I'm creating circles along the top header area, mostly concentrated on the right side of the page, since the lettering, the header itself, is going to be on the left side, and once the paint is dry, I'll add in the lettering. And then in the lower portion of the spread, I'm creating boxes for each month and quickly writing in the calendars. Now, in recent years, I've preferred to use stickers to do these instead of having to write each one out. But again, because we're about to move, I've packed up all my sticker making materials and I didn't have time to make stickers that extended into 2022. So I had to go back to the old school method of writing it by hand, and it reminded me why I liked stickers so much. But I wanted to start with July since that's when this bullet journal starts, and then work through till June of 2022. So if something comes up, we have a plan for April of 2022. I have a place to write it down. Flipping to the next spread, which is going to be my Kanban board. This is a spread that I've talked about many times on my channel at this point. I do have a dedicated video talking about how to use this system and what it is and what it's for, which I'll link for you if you want to check that out. But this current iteration is one that I've been using for several bullet journals now, and it's specifically for video creation, which is my full-time job. So what I like to do is split up the spread into several categories, in my case 10 categories, 5 on each page. And these 10 sections are the 10 steps of the process that I take in creating a video. And once I have all of this set up, all of these sections labeled and separated, I'm able to create little tabs for every video I'm working on. I usually just use little paper tabs that you can get for marking pages in a book. And I write the video on that tab and am able to move it through the stages of the video creation process as I work on the video, which is not as important if you're just working on one video at a time, but especially for me at times like right this moment where I am working several videos ahead and working on several videos simultaneously that are all at different stages of completion. This kind of spread becomes completely invaluable because I can easily lose track of where I am in the process when I'm working on several videos at once. And this is a really great visual representation of how far along I am in the process on each video, what has to be done, what has already been done, and is also just really satisfying to move the little video tab from one section to the next as I complete these tasks. And this is a really awesome spread. I highly recommend it. You can adapt it to pretty much any system or project type, which makes it super versatile. So 2 thumbs up for the Kanban board. I can't see myself not using this spread anytime soon. Once I finish my Kanban board, I'm flipping to my next spread, which is all about deliveries and managing them, especially after the last year where basically all of my shopping has happened online. I really need a way to track everything that's coming and expected delivery dates to remind myself to follow up if something is really late coming in the mail. I also, as a recovering shopaholic, need to have an area to separate things that I want to buy versus things that I need to buy, to allow myself some time to mull over the purchase and allow the impulse to buy to dissipate and leave me more level-headed so that I can make decisions that I feel good about months down the line. I like to give a full page to my waiting on spread for all the deliveries that I'm going to be waiting on through the last half of 2021. And then on the right side of this spread, I split that page into 3 sections, a third of the page for listing wants, a third of the page for listing needs, and a third of the page for keeping track of items that are being gifted to me, that are being sent to me by brands, whether it is just for me to have and share if I'm interested in it, whether it's part of a sponsorship or whatever it is. I like to have a separate area to track those items that are coming from a brand that may have expectations attached. For the waiting on spread, I like to have a bullet column, which is just where I can check it off once that item's been fully delivered. The item section where I can identify what it is that I'm waiting for and where it's from. And then I also have the 2 columns at the end, DE and DA, and these stand for date expected and date arrived. I just like to track this so that when I order something and I get a shipping estimate, I can write down the date that I'm expecting to receive the package. And then if I don't have it by a week or 2 after that date, I know to to contact the brand or the shipping company and check up on the package. And it also helps me for future purchases to look back and see if I'm repurchasing from a brand. Maybe there's a pattern where things always come a week early, or maybe things always come a month late. And that just helps me with having a better idea of when I should worry about a package. For the want, need, and gifted spread, I thought it'd be fun to do something similar to the cover page where the background of the spread is a bunch of circles, but in this case, they're much larger and fill almost the entire page. So I'm painting all of these circles first and letting them dry before overlapping them with lettering. For this spread, I'm really just going to create little bullet point lists of the items that I want or need or are being gifted to me. Nothing too fancy here, just a place to make lists and stay organized and hopefully be a little more mindful. Flipping to the next spread here, this one is all about master to-do lists. So I have a work to-do list on the left side and a personal to-do list on the right. And these were spreads that I tried for the first time in my last bullet journal, and I really liked having a place to write down tasks that came up that needed to be done eventually, whether they were work or personal related, but didn't have to be done in the current week or month that I was in particularly, because I'm the kind of person that will totally forget everything if I don't write it down somewhere. And I have at times struggled with knowing where to put tasks that aren't particularly urgent in my bullet journal so that I don't have to rewrite them over and over and over again. And the master to-do lists or brain dumps have been the solution for me in that area. I like to split things out between work and personal just for my own brain and organization, but of course there are lots of other ways to do this. You could combine them on a single list and just use your key to identify different types of tasks, or you could color code them, whatever works best for you. I really like to have a place to gather all of these kind of random tasks together that don't have a particular due date, but should be done eventually, and I want to make sure that I don't forget them. And then it's also nice if I come across a week where I have a lower workload, or maybe I just have more free time, I'm able to flip to this list and see if there's anything on either the work or personal lists that I could add to my current weekly to-do list to try to get those done. And now flipping to the final two spreads of this setup. These are some more personal spreads that I like to include in all of my bullet journals. So on the left side, I'm creating a period tracker for the last 6 months of the year. And on the right side, I'm creating a date night tracker for dates with my husband. So for the period tracker, I like to have a column for each month and create dots down the column to represent each day. And then I have a particular key of symbols that I like to use to track days that I'm menstruating, days that I have particular symptoms, and you can really adapt the system to track whatever you want to track that has to do with your particular cycle. I really think it's important to include something like this if you are a person who menstruates, because it can be so easy to kind of lose track of what's happening with your body, and it can be so incredibly beneficial to track it in such a clear visual way and have that information. If something comes up, if you notice that something seems off, you have that information at your fingertips to share with your doctor. That information can really be vital. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Let's normalize talking about reproductive health because it's so important, and the shame that it tends to be shrouded in is just incredibly detrimental to those of us with uteruses. So let's just stop that. As for my date night spread, I've done these so many times, but if you've never seen one of my bullet journal setups, I will quickly explain it. I write date ideas on, in this case, the left side, and under the bullet column, I'll add a little bullet beside the date idea where I can check it off once we've completed that date, and I'll just connect it to underneath whichever month we did the date in and add another little bullet. This is modified from the rolling weekly that I use every single week in my bullet journal. So if you're familiar with the rolling weekly, you will recognize this technique of tracking. And that's it for all of the spreads in my new bullet journal. So before I show you the final flip through, I want to take a minute to talk to you about today's video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes to inspire you as a creator. With Skillshare, you can explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in your creativity. Whether you're interested in illustration, graphic design, productivity, or fine art, Skillshare has classes for you. I just finished taking Andy J. Pizza's Find Your Style, 5 exercises to unlock your creative identity, and I absolutely loved it. Not only is Andy such an animated and charismatic teacher and seems like a lovely human being, but Andy's tips really encourage you to think outside the box, to find your own unique creative style, no matter what medium you're working with. Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. Because Skillshare has sponsored this video, the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership so you can explore your creativity. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And now, without further ado, let's check out all of the spreads in my new bullet journal setup. In my collab notebook, oh my goodness, y'all, I am so excited to share this full collab with all of you. I have been waiting so long. Oh my goodness. Anyway, here are all the spreads I created today. As always, if you have questions, if you want further clarification about a particular spread or how I did something in this video, leave a comment down below. I will do my very best to answer any and all questions. I'd also love to know what you have named your current or upcoming bullet journal, if you like to name your bullet journals too. I always find it really interesting to hear how people name the things that are important to them. I really like how this color palette turned out with the different shades of the same color, getting that gradient effect from the peach through the orange to the rust, and then with the pop of gold as well as the black accents. It just all ties together so well, and I love that it goes with the notebook itself, which is orange with the gold accents and the black pen loop. It's all coming together exactly as I planned, and I love when that happens. So give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We would love to have you here. And before I go, I want to take a moment to thank my patrons for their support. If you at home want to join the squad, feel free. There's a link in the card and in the description box down below. And with that, I'm going to get going. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you really soon in my next one. Bye, friends.